The cellar door stood open when Austin Quinn returned to his ranch outside Pueblo, Colorado on that scorching afternoon in July of 1877. And he knew immediately something was wrong because he always kept it locked tight. His hand moved instinctively to the revolver at his hip as he dismounted from his chestnut mare, his boots hitting the dusty ground with a soft thud. The journey from town had taken 2 hours, and all he had wanted was to check on his food stores before the evening came. Austin had lived alone on this land for 3 years now, ever since he had saved enough money from working cattle drives to buy his own spread. At 26 years old, he had built something he could be proud of, even if he had no one to share it with. The wooden door creaked as he pulled it wider, peering down into the darkness below. The smell of earth and preserved vegetables wafted up to meet him. He grabbed the lantern hanging by the entrance, struck a match, and descended the rough-hewn steps slowly, his eyes adjusting to the dim light. That was when he saw her. A woman huddled in the far corner behind the potato sacks, her dress torn and dusty, her dark hair matted with dirt and what looked like dried blood. Her eyes were wide with terror, reflecting the lantern light like a cornered animal. She could not have been more than 23 or 24 years old, and despite the grime covering her face, Austin could see she was beautiful. "Please," she whispered, her voice hoarse and desperate. "Please do not hurt me." Austin immediately raised his free hand, showing he meant no harm. "I am not going to hurt you, miss. This is my cellar, my ranch. You are hiding on my property." She flinched at his words, pressing herself harder against the earthen wall. "I had nowhere else to go. They are looking for me. Who is looking for you?" Austin set the lantern down on a barrel and crouched to appear less threatening. He could see she was trembling. "The Maddox brothers," she said, her voice breaking. "They killed my father 2 days ago in Denver. They want to kill me too because I witnessed it." Austin felt his stomach tighten. He knew of the Maddox brothers by reputation, 3 outlaws who had terrorized the territory for the better part of a year, robbing banks and killing anyone who got in their way. The law had been hunting them without success. "How did you get here?" he asked gently. "I ran. I stole a horse from outside the saloon where they were drinking after they shot my father. I rode for almost 2 days straight. The horse went lame about 5 miles from here, so I walked. I saw your ranch and thought maybe I could hide just for a little while, just until I could figure out what to do." Tears began streaming down her cheeks. "I am so sorry. I did not know what else to do." Austin made a decision in that moment that would indeed change his life forever. "Come on up to the house. You need water, food, and those cuts looked at." She stared at him with disbelief. "You are not going to turn me away?" "No, miss, I am not that kind of man." He stood and offered his hand. "My name is Austin Quinn. This is my ranch, and you are welcome here for as long as you need to stay." She hesitated for a long moment before reaching out and taking his hand. Her fingers were ice cold despite the summer heat. "Catherine Matthews," she said. "My friends call me Kate." Austin helped her up the stairs and into the afternoon sunlight. She squinted against the brightness, and he could see her better now. Her dress had once been a fine blue calico, the kind a respectable merchant's daughter might wear. There was a cut above her left eyebrow and bruises on her arms. She swayed on her feet, and he quickly steadied her. "When did you last eat?" he asked. "Yesterday morning. I had some bread in my bag, but I finished it." He guided her toward the small ranch house, a simple structure he had built himself with help from a few neighboring ranchers. It was not much to look at, just 4 rooms and a porch, but it was solid and kept out the weather. Inside, he pulled out a chair at the kitchen table and helped her sit. "I am going to get you some water and fix you something to eat. Then we will clean those wounds." Kate nodded, looking around the modest kitchen with its simple furnishings and neat organization. You live here alone? Yes, miss. Been on my own since I bought this place 3 years back. He pumped water into a tin cup and handed it to her. She drank it so quickly she coughed, and he refilled it. Slow down now. You will make yourself sick. She took smaller sips of the second cup while he sliced bread and cheese, adding some dried beef to the plate. It was not fancy, but it was food. She fell on it like she was starving, and he supposed she was. While she ate, Austin filled a basin with water and found a clean cloth. When she had finished eating, he gently cleaned the cut on her forehead. She winced but did not pull away. This might need stitching, he said, examining it closely. I have had worse, she replied, and there was something hard in her voice that made him wonder what kind of life she had led. Tell me what happened in Denver, he said as he worked. If you feel up to it. Kate took a shaky breath. My father owned a shop there. We sold dry goods, fabric, things like that. We had only been in Denver for 6 months. Before that, we lived in St. Louis, but my mother died last year, and my father wanted a fresh start somewhere new. The Maddox brothers came into the shop 3 days ago. They wanted supplies but did not want to pay. My father refused to just give them what they wanted. He was proud that way, always believed in honest business. Her voice caught, and Austin paused in his ministrations. You do not have to continue if it is too hard. No, I need to tell someone. She wiped at her eyes. They got angry when he refused. The oldest one, Cole Maddox, he pulled his gun right there in the shop. My father told me to run, to go out the back. I did not want to leave him, but he shouted at me, so I ran. I heard the gunshot as I was going out the door. I hid in the alley and watched them come out. They were laughing about killing him. Austin felt anger rising in his chest. He had seen plenty of hard men in his years, had worked alongside some rough characters on the cattle drives, but killing a shopkeeper over a few dollars worth of goods was low even by outlaw standards. Did they see you? He asked. Not at first. I waited until they went into the saloon, then I went back inside. My father was still alive, barely. He told me to run, to get as far away as I could. He said they would kill me too if they found me because I could identify them. Then he died right there in my arms. She was crying freely now. I did not even get to bury him properly. I just ran like he told me to. Austin finished cleaning her wounds and sat down across from her at the table. You did the right thing. Your father wanted you to live. But they found out I was there. Someone must have seen me leave the shop. By the time I got the horse and started riding, I could hear them shouting about finding the girl. I have been running ever since. I thought maybe if I could get far enough away, they would give up. But this morning, when I was walking after the horse went lame, I saw riders in the distance. I could not be sure it was them, but I was too scared to wait and find out. That is when I found your ranch and hid in the cellar. Austin considered this information carefully. If they tracked you this far, they might still be looking. Pueblo is not a big town. Someone might have seen you coming this direction. Fear flashed across her face again. I should leave. I should not have involved you in this. If they find me here, they will kill you too. You are not going anywhere in your condition, Austin said firmly. Besides, I would not send a woman out alone to face 3 killers. What kind of man would that make me? A living one, Kate said bitterly. I have dealt with dangerous men before. I can handle myself. He stood and went to the window, looking out at the dusty yard and the rolling prairie beyond. But we should be smart about this. If they come here asking questions, we need a story. What kind of story? Austin turned back to her. We tell them you are my cousin, visiting from back east. You arrived a week ago and you have been here the whole time. That way, even if someone saw a woman matching your description heading this direction, we can claim it was not you. Kate looked skeptical. Do you think they would believe that? Probably not, but it might give them pause. Might make them think twice before causing trouble if they believe you have family here." He paused. "Can you shoot a gun?" "My father taught me to shoot when I was young. We needed to protect ourselves traveling west." "Good. I have a spare rifle. If it comes to trouble, I want you armed and able to defend yourself." The reality of the situation seemed to settle over both of them. Here they were, two strangers brought together by violence and chance, now bound by circumstances neither had chosen. But as Austin looked at Kate sitting at his table, something stirred in his chest that had nothing to do with duty or obligation. The rest of that afternoon passed in careful preparation. Austin showed Kate where he kept his spare weapons and ammunition. He pointed out the best defensive positions in and around the house. They worked together to prepare a simple supper of beans and cornbread, and Austin found himself enjoying the sound of another voice in his home, the presence of another person after so much solitude. As evening fell and they sat on the porch watching the sun paint the western sky in shades of orange and red, Kate spoke softly. "Why are you helping me? You do not know me. You do not owe me anything." Austin was quiet for a moment, watching a hawk circle overhead. "My mother always taught me that when you have the power to help someone, you have the responsibility to do it. She died when I was 16, but I have never forgotten that lesson." He glanced at her. "Besides, what those men did to your father, what they are trying to do to you, it is not right. Someone needs to stand against men like that." "You are a good man, Austin Quinn," Kate said, and there was warmth in her voice that made his heart beat a little faster. "I try to be," he replied. That night, Austin gave Kate his bedroom and made himself a bedroll in the main room. He slept lightly, his revolver within easy reach, listening for any sound of approaching riders. But the night passed peacefully, filled only with the usual sounds of the prairie, crickets chirping and coyotes calling in the distance. Morning came with brilliant sunshine and the smell of coffee. Austin woke to find Kate already up, working at the stove. She had washed her face and combed her hair as best she could, and in the morning light he was struck again by how beautiful she was. "I hope you do not mind," she said, gesturing to the coffee pot. "I thought I should make myself useful." "I do not mind at all." He stood and stretched, rolling up his bedroll. "How are you feeling?" "Sore, but better." The food and rest helped. She poured him a cup of coffee and handed it to him. "I have been thinking about what you said yesterday, about the story we would tell if they come asking. And we should probably get our details straight. If I am supposed to be your cousin, I should know things about your family, and you should know about mine." They spent breakfast trading information, creating a plausible history for Kate's fictional visit. Austin told her about his real family, his parents who had died years ago, his lack of siblings. Kate shared details of her actual life before Denver, her childhood in St. Louis, her mother's death from pneumonia. As they talked, Austin found himself drawn to her intelligence and spirit. Despite everything she had been through, there was a strength to Kate Matthews that impressed him. She was not some delicate flower who needed constant protection. She was a survivor. The days that followed fell into a comfortable rhythm. Kate helped with the household chores and cooking while Austin tended to his small herd of cattle and the other ranch work. In the evenings, they would sit on the porch and talk, sharing stories of their lives, their dreams for the future. Austin found himself looking forward to these conversations more than anything. Kate was well-read and thoughtful, with opinions on everything from politics to philosophy. She made him laugh with her dry wit and moved him with her compassion when she spoke of the injustices she had witnessed. The way native peoples were being pushed off their lands, the way women were treated as property rather than people. "My mother used to say that the true measure of a society is how it treats its most vulnerable members," Kate said one evening about a week after her arrival. "I think about that a lot, especially now. If my father and I had been wealthy or powerful, would the Maddox brothers have dared to threaten us? Or does violence always flow downhill, landing hardest on those least able to defend themselves?" Austin considered her words carefully. "I think power makes some men cruel. But I also think there are good people trying to make things better, trying to build a world where justice means something." "Are you one of those people?" she asked, turning to look at him. "I would like to be," he said honestly. Something shifted between them in that moment, an acknowledgement of deeper feelings neither had yet spoken aloud. Austin wanted to reach out and take her hand, but he held back, unsure if his affection was welcome, or if she was simply grateful for his protection. The peace they had found was shattered on the 9th day of Kate's stay at the ranch. Austin was out checking fence lines in the north pasture when he saw the riders approaching from the east. 3 men on horseback, moving with the casual confidence of those who feared no opposition. Even at a distance, Austin knew who they were. He had seen wanted posters in Pueblo. The Maddox brothers. He rode back to the house as quickly as he could without appearing to flee. Kate was hanging laundry in the yard, but she saw his face and immediately knew something was wrong. "Get inside," he said quietly. "Get the rifle and stay out of sight. They are here." Her face went pale, but she nodded and moved quickly into the house. Austin positioned himself on the porch, forcing himself to appear relaxed even as his heart pounded. The riders grew closer, and he could make out their features now. Cole Maddox was the largest of the 3, a bear of a man with a thick black beard and cold eyes. His brothers, James and Pike, flanked him on either side, both leaner but no less dangerous looking. They all wore guns low on their hips, and Austin could see rifles in saddle scabbards. They reined in their horses about 20 feet from the porch, and Cole Maddox touched the brim of his hat in a mockery of politeness. "Afternoon," he said. "We are looking for someone." A woman, early 20s, dark hair. She would have come through here about a week back, maybe on foot, maybe on a lame horse. Austin leaned against the porch railing, keeping his hands visible and away from his gun. "That is a pretty vague description. Could match half the women in Colorado." "This one would have been running scared," James Maddox added. "Probably dirty, roughed up. She killed our partner up in Denver and stole from us. We aim to bring her to justice." Austin fought to keep his expression neutral. So that was the story they were telling, that Kate was the criminal. "Have you talked to the law about this?" "Law is too slow," Cole said. "We believe in handling our own affairs. Now, have you seen her or not? Like I said, I have not seen anyone matching that description around here. Just me and my cousin Kate on this ranch, and she has been here for near about 2 weeks now, visiting from back east." Pike Maddox, the youngest of the 3, spoke up for the first time. "That is convenient. You have a woman here right now." "I do, and I would appreciate you showing some respect when talking about my family." Austin let a hint of steel enter his voice. Cole studied him for a long moment. "We would like to meet this cousin of yours, just to be sure you understand." Austin had known this was coming, but it still made his pulse quicken. "She is inside doing her washing. She is not fond of strange men." "We will be real polite," Cole said, but there was nothing polite in his smile. Before Austin could respond, the door opened and Kate stepped out onto the porch. She had changed into a clean dress that Austin had bought for her in Pueblo a few days earlier, and she had pinned her hair up in a respectable style. She looked nothing like the desperate fugitive who had hidden in his cellar. She looked like exactly what they claimed she was, a proper young woman visiting family. But Austin saw the fear in her eyes, carefully masked but present nonetheless. "Austin, who are these men?" she asked, her voice steady. They are looking for someone, Kate. I told them we have not seen anyone come through here. Kate looked directly at Cole Maddox, and Austin had to admire her courage. I certainly have not seen anyone. As my cousin said, I have been here for 2 weeks. It has been wonderfully peaceful after the noise and crowds of Philadelphia. They had agreed on St. Louis, but Austin understood immediately why she had changed it. If these men had killed her father in Denver, they might know he had come from St. Louis. She was being smart, creating distance from her real history. Cole dismounted and his brothers followed suit. Austin tensed, moving slightly to position himself between them and Kate. Philadelphia, you say? Cole moved closer to the porch. That is a long way to come for a visit. Family is important, Kate replied. My mother always said that we should cherish our relatives while we have them. One never knows when they might be taken from us. The words carried a double meaning that made Cole's eyes narrow. That is real philosophical of you, miss. You mind if we look around your cousin's property, just to put our minds at ease? I mind, Austin said flatly. This is my land and you do not have any authority to search it. If you had the law with you, that would be different, but you do not. James Maddox moved his hand closer to his gun. Maybe we do not need authority. Maybe we just take what we want. Austin met his gaze without flinching. You could try, but I am pretty handy with this. He tapped the revolver at his hip. And my cousin is an excellent shot with a rifle. You might kill us, but I guarantee you would not all walk away. The tension stretched tight as a wire. For a moment, Austin thought it would snap into violence, but Cole Maddox held up a hand, stopping his brother. No need for anyone to die today, he said, though his tone suggested he did not much care either way. We will be on our way, but if we find out you have been lying to us, we will be back, and we will not be so polite next time. I appreciate your courtesy, Austin said dryly. The Maddox brothers mounted up again, but before they rode off, Cole looked back at Kate one more time. You know, miss, you remind me of someone. Cannot quite place it, but it will come to me. Then they were gone, riding west toward Pueblo in a cloud of dust. Austin and Kate stood frozen on the porch until the riders disappeared from view. Then Kate's legs gave out and she sat down hard on the porch steps. Austin sat beside her, his own hands shaking now that the danger had passed. That was too close, he said. He recognized me. He is going to realize it eventually. Kate's voice was tight with fear. Maybe not. You look different than you did when you arrived. Clean, well-fed, well-dressed. And you carried yourself like a lady today, not like someone running for her life. But what if he does remember? What if they come back? Austin took her hand, surprising himself with the boldness of the gesture. She did not pull away. Then we will deal with it, together. She turned to look at him, and he saw something in her eyes that made his breath catch. Why are you doing this? You could have turned me over to them. You could have stayed out of it entirely. Because you matter, he said simply. Your life matters. And what they did to your father, it was murder, not justice. I will not be part of that. Kate squeezed his hand. I think I am falling in love with you, Austin Quinn. Is that terribly foolish of me? His heart seemed to expand in his chest. If it is, then I am equally foolish, because I have been falling in love with you since the moment I found you in my cellar. She laughed, a sound caught between joy and tears. That is not very romantic, you know. Most men would say something more poetic. I am a rancher, not a poet, he said, but he was smiling. But I can tell you this, Kate Matthews. I have never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. These past days with you here, it has been like my life finally made sense. Like I was waiting for you without even knowing it. She leaned her head against his shoulder. What are we going to do? We are going to figure this out, he promised. We are going to find a way to keep you safe and make sure those men face justice for what they did. But even as he spoke the words, Austin knew it would not be simple. The Maddox brothers were dangerous and determined. They would not give up easily. And if Cole Maddox did eventually remember where he had seen Kate before, they would be back with guns ready. That night, Austin and Kate sat up late making plans. They decided that Kate should stay out of sight as much as possible when anyone came to the ranch. They also agreed that Austin would ride into Pueblo the next day and talk to the sheriff, tell him the whole story and see if the law could help. "The problem is," Austin said, "the law has been trying to catch the Maddox brothers for months without success. Even if the sheriff believes us, I do not know if he can do anything." "But at least someone in authority would know the truth," Kate argued. "Right now, it is just your word and mine against theirs. If something happens to us, no one would know to hold them accountable." She had a point, and Austin agreed, but he did not like the idea of leaving her alone at the ranch, even for a few hours. "I will be fine," she assured him. "I can shoot, remember, and I will stay inside with the doors barred. Anyone tries to come in uninvited, they will get a very unfriendly welcome." The next morning, Austin saddled his horse and prepared to ride to Pueblo. Before he left, he kissed Kate for the first time, a gentle press of his lips to hers that nonetheless sent electricity through his entire body. She kissed him back, her hands coming up to rest on his chest. "Come back safe," she whispered. "Always," he promised. The ride to Pueblo took just over 2 hours, and Austin spent the time thinking about everything that had happened. 2 weeks ago, he had been a solitary rancher with a simple, quiet life. Now he was harboring a fugitive, in love with a woman he barely knew, and facing down 3 of the most dangerous outlaws in Colorado. Life, he reflected, could change in an instant. Pueblo was busy when he arrived, wagons and horses crowding the main street. Austin tied his horse outside the sheriff's office and went inside. The sheriff, a weathered man named Tom Garrett who Austin knew slightly from previous visits to town, looked up from his desk. "Austin Quinn, what brings you to town today?" "I need to report a crime, Sheriff. A murder that happened in Denver about 2 weeks back." Garrett's eyebrows rose. "Denver? That is out of my jurisdiction. Why come to me?" Austin sat down without being invited and told the whole story. He explained about finding Kate in his cellar, about her father's murder, about the Maddox brothers coming to his ranch. Garrett listened without interrupting, his expression growing more serious as the tale unfolded. When Austin finished, the sheriff leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. "That is quite a story, and you are sure it was the Maddox brothers?" "Positive. I have seen their wanted posters. It was definitely them." "And this woman, Kate Matthews, she is still at your ranch?" "She is. She has nowhere else to go, and I am not about to turn her out to face those killers alone." Garrett stood and walked to the window, looking out at the street. "The Maddox brothers are wanted for robbery and murder in 3 territories. If what your friend says is true, and I have no reason to doubt it, they killed her father in cold blood. That is something the law should handle." "The law has not had much luck catching them so far," Austin pointed out. "No, we have not," Garrett admitted. "They are smart and they are ruthless. But now we know they are in this area. That gives us an advantage." He turned back to Austin. "I will wire the authorities in Denver. Let them know we have a witness to the murder of Kate's father. I will also put together a posse. If the Maddox brothers are still around Pueblo, we will find them." Austin felt some of the tension leave his shoulders. At least someone in authority was taking this seriously. "What should Kate and I do in the meantime?" "Stay alert. Keep your guns close. If they come back to your ranch, do what you have to do to protect yourselves, but try not to kill them if you can help it. Dead men cannot stand trial." "I will do my best," Austin said. though he privately thought that if it came down to Kate's life or theirs, he would not hesitate to pull the trigger. He left the sheriff's office feeling slightly better about the situation. At least they were not alone in this anymore. The law was involved, and with luck, the Maddox brothers would be caught and hanged for their crimes. But as Austin rode back toward his ranch, he could not shake the feeling that things were about to get worse before they got better. His instincts proved correct. He was still a mile from home when he saw the smoke rising into the afternoon sky. Black smoke, thick and ominous. His heart lurched into his throat, and he spurred his horse into a gallop, racing toward his ranch with fear pounding through his veins. Please let Kate be safe, he prayed to whatever God might be listening. Please let her be alive. He crested the last rise and saw his barn engulfed in flames. The house appeared untouched, but 3 horses stood in the yard, and Austin recognized them immediately. The Maddox brothers had come back. He dismounted while his horse was still moving, pulling his revolver as he ran toward the house. The front door hung open, and he could hear voices inside, men's voices raised in anger. Austin burst through the door to find Cole Maddox holding Kate by the arm, his gun pressed to her head. James and Pike stood nearby, their weapons drawn. Kate's face was bruised and there was blood on her lip, but she was alive. "Let her go," Austin said, his gun trained on Cole. Cole laughed. "I do not think so. See, I remembered where I had seen this pretty face before. She is the shopkeeper's daughter from Denver, the one who saw us kill her daddy. We cannot have her telling tales to the law now, can we?" "The law already knows," Austin said. "I just came from Pueblo. The sheriff is putting together a posse right now. If you hurt her, if you hurt either of us, they will hunt you to the ends of the earth." Pike shifted nervously. "Cole, maybe we should just go. We have got enough problems without adding more heat." "Shut up," Cole snapped. "We are not leaving witnesses. We finish this here and now, then we head south to Mexico like we planned." Austin kept his gun steady, his mind racing through options. He could maybe get one of them, probably Cole, but the other 2 would kill him before he could shoot again. And then they would kill Kate. He needed another plan. "You know, if you kill us, my neighbors are going to notice," Austin said, playing for time. "The smoke from that barn fire is going to draw attention. Folks will come to help and they will find 2 bodies and 3 outlaws. That is not going to end well for you." James Maddox moved toward the window, checking outside. "He has got a point, Cole. We should have thought this through better." "I said shut up," Cole repeated, but Austin could hear the uncertainty creeping into his voice. The oldest Maddox brother was smart enough to realize they had made a mistake coming back here in daylight, drawing attention with the fire. That moment of distraction was what Kate had been waiting for. She stomped down hard on Cole's instep and twisted away from his grip, dropping to the floor. Austin fired, his bullet taking Cole in the shoulder and spinning him around. Pike raised his gun, but a rifle shot from the doorway dropped him before he could pull the trigger. Austin whirled to see Sheriff Garrett and 3 deputies standing in the doorway, their weapons drawn. James Maddox threw down his gun and raised his hands. Cole, clutching his bleeding shoulder, had no choice but to follow suit. "We saw the smoke from the road," Garrett said, moving into the room to collect the outlaws' weapons. "Figured we would ride out and see if you needed help. Looks like we got here just in time." Austin rushed to Kate, helping her up from the floor. She threw her arms around him and he held her tight, feeling her heart racing against his chest. "I am so sorry," she said into his shoulder. "They caught me off guard. I tried to fight, but there were 3 of them. You are alive. That is all that matters." He pulled back to look at her face, gently touching the bruise forming on her cheek. "Did they hurt you badly?" "Nothing that will not heal," she said, trying to smile. The deputies hauled the Maddox brothers out of the house and tied them to their horses. Cole was cursing and threatening, but his words fell on deaf ears. The law had them now, and they would hang for their crimes. Sheriff Garrett stayed behind to talk to Austin and Kate. "We will need you both to come to Pueblo and give formal statements. And Miss Matthews, the authorities in Denver will want to talk to you about your father's murder." "I will tell them everything," Kate said firmly. "Those men killed my father and they need to pay for it." "They will," Garrett assured her. "We have got them dead to rights now. Between your testimony and what just happened here, they will swing for sure." After the sheriff and his deputies left with their prisoners, Austin and Kate stood in the yard watching the barn burn. There was nothing to be done about it now. The structure was too far gone to save. "I am sorry about your barn," Kate said softly. "Buildings can be rebuilt. You cannot be replaced." He took her hand. "When I saw that smoke and thought you might be hurt or worse, I realized something. I do not want to live without you, Kate. I know we have not known each other long, but I know how I feel. I love you." She turned to face him fully, her eyes bright with tears. "I love you too. I think I have loved you since you found me in that cellar and showed me kindness when you had no reason to. You saved my life, Austin, in more ways than one." He kissed her then, deeply and thoroughly, pouring all his feelings into it. She kissed him back with equal passion, her hands tangling in his hair. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. "Marry me," Austin said. "I know this is sudden, and I know you have been through hell, but I do not want to waste any more time. Life is too short and too uncertain." "Marry me, Kate." "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Yes, I will marry you." They held each other as the barn collapsed in on itself, sending up a shower of sparks into the darkening sky. It felt symbolic somehow, the old life burning away to make room for something new. The next few weeks were busy ones. Austin and Kate traveled to Pueblo to give their statements to the law. Kate also made the journey to Denver with a federal marshal to testify about her father's murder. It was painful for her, reliving those terrible moments, but she bore it with courage and dignity. The Maddox brothers were tried quickly and found guilty. All three were sentenced to hang. Austin and Kate did not attend the execution, choosing instead to focus on building their future together. They were married in late August in a simple ceremony at the small church in Pueblo. Several of Austin's neighbors attended, along with Sheriff Garrett and his wife. Kate wore a new dress of cream-colored silk, and Austin wore his best suit. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Austin felt a completeness he had never known before. They spent their wedding night at the small hotel in Pueblo, but both were eager to return to the ranch and begin their life together properly. They had plans for rebuilding the barn, for expanding the house, for growing the herd and making the ranch truly prosperous. But first, there was the matter of Kate's father to settle. She wanted to bring his body back from Denver and give him a proper burial. Austin agreed without question, understanding how important this was to her. They made the trip in September, when the worst of the summer heat had passed. Denver was larger and more bustling than Pueblo, and Kate struggled with being back in the city where her father had died. But Austin stayed close by her side, offering support and strength when her own faltered. They found her father's grave in the city cemetery, a simple wooden marker with his name carved into it. Some kind soul had seen to his burial when Kate had fled. They arranged to have the coffin exhumed and transported back to Pueblo. It was not an easy process or a cheap one, but Austin did not care about the cost. Kate needed this closure, and he would give it to her. They buried William Matthews in the cemetery outside Pueblo, under a cottonwood tree with a view of the mountains. Kate cried throughout the brief service, but they were cleansing tears, the kind that wash away pain and leave room for healing. "Thank you," she told Austin afterward. "Thank you for understanding how much I needed this." "He was your father," Austin said simply. "He deserves to rest in peace, and you deserve to know where to find him when you want a visit." They visited the grave together often in those first months, and Kate would tell her father about her new life, about the man she had married, about the happiness she had found even in the wake of tragedy. Austin would stand quietly beside her, holding her hand and offering silent support. As autumn gave way to winter, their life settled into a comfortable routine. They rebuilt the barn with help from neighbors who came for a barn-raising party. It was larger and sturdier than the original, with room for more animals and better storage for hay and equipment. Kate proved to be an invaluable partner in running the ranch. She had a good head for numbers and took over managing their accounts and planning their purchases. She also started a vegetable garden and expanded it until they were growing enough to sell surplus produce in town. Her cooking was excellent, and Austin found himself putting on healthy weight after years of his own rough bachelor meals. But it was the quiet moments he treasured most. Evenings on the porch watching the sunset, mornings waking up with her in his arms, lazy Sunday afternoons spent talking and laughing and simply enjoying each other's company. For the first time in his life, Austin felt truly content. In the spring of 1878, Kate discovered she was pregnant. Austin was overjoyed, though also terrified at the responsibility of becoming a father. Kate was more practical about it, reading every book on childbirth and infant care she could get her hands from the general store in Pueblo. "Our child is going to be the most well-prepared baby in Colorado," Austin joked, watching her pore over yet another manual. "Our child is going to be healthy and loved," Kate corrected, but she was smiling. The pregnancy progressed smoothly, though the summer heat made Kate uncomfortable. Austin fussed over her constantly, earning both exasperation and affection for his attentiveness. He hired a woman from town to help with the heavier household chores and insisted that Kate rest more than she worked. "I am pregnant, not dying," she protested one afternoon when he tried to take a laundry basket from her hands. "I know, but I want to take care of you. Is that so terrible?" She set down the basket and kissed him. "It is not terrible at all. I am very lucky to have you." Their son was born in early October, a healthy baby boy with his mother's dark hair and his father's blue eyes. They named him William, after Kate's father, with the middle name Austin after his own father. William Austin Quinn came into the world screaming lustily, and from his first breath, he owned his parents' hearts completely. Austin had never known he could feel such overwhelming love for another person. Holding his son for the first time, looking down at that tiny, perfect face, he understood why his own parents had worked so hard to give him a good life. He silently promised William that he would do the same, that he would build something lasting and good to pass on to his child. Kate was a natural mother, patient and loving even when exhausted from sleepless nights. Austin did what he could to help, walking the baby when he was fussy, changing diapers, and singing the old cowboy songs his own father had taught him years ago. They made a good team, just as they did in everything else. The ranch continued to grow and prosper. By 1880, Austin had expanded his herd significantly and hired 2 hands to help with the work. The cattle business was good, and they were able to save money and make improvements to the property. They added more rooms to the house, built a proper stable, and dug a new well closer to the house. Kate gave birth to a daughter in the summer of 1881, a beautiful little girl they named Sarah Ann. She had her father's blonde hair and her mother's green eyes, and she was as different from her brother as could be. Where William was energetic and adventurous, Sarah was contemplative and gentle. They balanced each other perfectly. Austin's heart, already full to bursting, somehow found room to expand even more. Watching Kate with their children, seeing William toddle after him around the ranch, holding baby Sarah as she slept, these were the moments that made everything else worthwhile. The hard work, the difficult times, the dangers they had faced, all of it had led them here, to this life they had built together. They made sure to tell their children about their grandfather William Matthews, about his integrity and courage. As William and Sarah grew older, Kate would take them to visit his grave and tell them stories about the man they were named after. It was important to her that her father's memory lived on, that his grandchildren knew the kind of man he had been. The years rolled by, each one bringing new challenges and new joys. There were hard winters and dry summers, sick cattle and crop failures, but Austin and Kate faced everything together. Their partnership was strong, built on love and mutual respect, and the shared understanding of what truly mattered in life. In 1883, the railroad finally reached Pueblo, opening up new opportunities for ranchers. Austin was able to ship his cattle more easily and for better prices. The increased income allowed them to buy more land and expand their operations even further. What had started as a small ranch worked by one man had grown into a significant operation employing several hands and supporting two families besides their own. But success did not change Austin or Kate. They remained the same people they had always been, hardworking and honest, kind to their neighbors and generous with those less fortunate. They remembered what it was like to struggle, to face danger and uncertainty, and they used their good fortune to help others when they could. They hired men who were down on their luck and gave them a chance to prove themselves. They welcomed travelers who needed a meal or a place to stay for the night. They supported the church and the new schoolhouse in Pueblo, believing in education and community. Their children grew up understanding that privilege came with responsibility, that having much meant giving much. William grew into a strong, capable young man who loved ranching as much as his father did. By the time he was 16 in 1894, he was doing the work of a full hand and showing good judgment in managing cattle and land. Austin was proud of his son, though he made sure to tell him that he could choose his own path in life if ranching was not what he wanted. "This is what I want," William assured him. "I cannot imagine doing anything else. This land, this life, it is in my blood." Sarah surprised everyone by showing a talent for teaching. She loved books and learning, and when she was 17, she went to Denver to attend the teachers' college there. It was hard for Kate to see her daughter leave, but both parents supported her dreams. "Our children are not ours to keep," Kate said the day they saw Sarah off on the train. "They are ours to raise and guide and then set free to find their own way." Austin held her hand as the train pulled away. "When did you get so wise?" "I have been wise all along. You just were not paying attention," she teased. In 1898, Sarah returned to Pueblo with her teaching certificate and took a position at the local school. She also brought with her a young man named Thomas Fletcher, a fellow teacher she had met in Denver. Thomas was intelligent and kind, and after a lengthy courtship, he and Sarah were married in 1899. William married the following year to a rancher's daughter from the next county over, a spirited young woman named Margaret who fit into the family perfectly. She was not afraid of hard work and loved the ranch life as much as William did. Austin and Kate, now in their late 40s, found themselves entering a new phase of life as grandparents. William and Margaret gave them two grandsons, James and Henry, while Sarah and Thomas had a daughter named Catherine, after her grandmother, whom everyone called Kitty. The ranch house, expanded over the years, filled with the sounds of grandchildren during holidays and Sunday dinners. Austin would sit on the porch with young James on his knee, telling him stories about the old days, about how he had found a woman hiding in his cellar and how that woman had changed his life forever. "Was Grandma very scared?" James would ask. "She was terrified," Austin would reply honestly. "But she was also very brave. The bravest woman I ever knew. She still is." Kate, overhearing from the doorway, would smile. "I was only brave because I had to be. Your grandfather is the truly brave one. He risked everything to protect a stranger." "You were not a stranger for long," Austin would say, the same way he always did when they told this story. "The moment I saw you, I knew you were going to be important to me." "That is not what you said at the time. As I recall, you said, 'This is my cellar, my ranch. You are hiding on my property.'" They would laugh together, the same way they had been laughing together for more than 20 years. The story of how they met had become family legend, told and retold, each time reminding them of how far they had come and how much they had overcome. In 1902, Austin was approached by some of the other ranchers about serving on the town council. Pueblo had grown considerably since they had first arrived, now a proper town with schools and churches and businesses. They needed good men to help guide its continued growth. Austin was reluctant at first, but Kate encouraged him. "You have always cared about doing what is right. This is a chance to make a real difference beyond our ranch." So he served, bringing the same integrity to public service that he brought to everything else. He fought for fair treatment of all residents, including the growing Hispanic population and the remaining native peoples in the area. He advocated for better schools and roads, and for laws that protected the vulnerable. Kate became involved in the church's charitable work, organizing donations for families in need and helping to establish an orphanage in Pueblo. She remembered all too well what it was like to be alone and desperate, and she wanted to make sure that anyone who found themselves in that position had somewhere to turn. As the new century progressed, the world changed rapidly around them. Automobiles began appearing on the streets of Pueblo. Telephone lines connected houses. The wild frontier of their youth was becoming settled and civilized, but some things remained constant. Their love for each other, if anything, had only deepened with time. They knew each other's thoughts and moods, could communicate with a glance or a touch. They still sat on the porch in the evenings, though now in rocking chairs that accommodated aging bones, watching the sun set over land that had been transformed by their years of work. "You ever regret it?" Kate asked one evening in the spring of 1907. "Taking me in, risking your life for a stranger." Austin turned to look at her, seeing the woman he loved as clearly as he had 20 years ago, though her hair was gray now and lines marked her face. She was still the most beautiful woman in the world to him. "Not for a single second," he said. "You are the best thing that ever happened to me. You and our children and this life we built together. I would do it all again in a heartbeat." She reached over and took his hand. "I was so scared that day, hiding in your cellar. I thought my life was over, and in a way it was. The girl I had been died with my father, but you helped me become someone new, someone stronger. You gave me a reason to keep living and then gave me a life worth living." "We gave that to each other," Austin said. They sat in comfortable silence, hands linked, watching the evening star appear in the deepening blue of the sky. Somewhere in the house, they could hear Margaret helping the children get ready for bed. William was probably out checking on a mare that was due to foal any day. Sarah and Thomas were expected for Sunday dinner tomorrow, bringing Kitty with them. Life was good. Not perfect, never perfect, but good and full and rich with meaning. In 1910, Austin and Kate celebrated their 30th wedding anniversary with a party that seemed to include half of Pueblo. Their children and grandchildren gathered, along with friends and neighbors they had known for decades. Sheriff Garrett, now retired but still sharp as a tack, gave a speech about the day he had helped arrest the Maddox brothers at Austin's ranch. "I knew right then that Austin Quinn was a man of principle," Garrett said, raising his glass. "And that Kate was a woman of courage. Together they have shown us all what it means to build a good life based on love and hard work and integrity. Here is to 30 more years." Everyone cheered and drank, and Austin pulled Kate into his arms for a kiss that made their grandchildren giggle and their children smile fondly. The years after 1910 brought changes. Austin gradually handed over more responsibility for the ranch to William, who had grown into an excellent manager. Sarah's work as a teacher touched countless lives in Pueblo. The grandchildren grew and flourished, each finding their own paths. Austin and Kate settled into a quieter rhythm, still active but less driven, more content to simply enjoy each day as it came. They took long walks around the property, remembering moments from their years together. They visited William Matthew's grave regularly, Kate speaking to her father as naturally as if he were still alive, telling him about his grandchildren and great-grandchildren, about the life she had built from the ashes of tragedy. In the summer of 1915, Austin developed a persistent cough that would not go away. The doctor in Pueblo diagnosed it as consumption and said there was not much to be done. Austin accepted the news with the same quiet courage he had shown throughout his life. "I have had a good run," he told Kate. "Better than most men can claim. I have loved and been loved, raised good children, built something lasting. I have no complaints." Kate refused to accept it at first, trying every remedy and treatment she could find. But as the months passed and Austin grew weaker, she had to face the reality that she was going to lose him. He died on a clear October morning in 1916, surrounded by his family. Kate held his hand as he took his last breath, tears streaming down her face even as she smiled for him. "I will see you again," she whispered. "Wait for me." He smiled back, squeezed her hand weakly, and then he was gone. The grief nearly broke her. For weeks after the funeral, Kate moved through the house like a ghost, unable to accept that Austin was truly gone. But her children rallied around her, and her grandchildren brought light back into the darkness. Slowly, painfully, she found her way back to living. She stayed on at the ranch, which William now ran entirely. She spent her days tending her garden, reading, and spending time with the grandchildren. She wrote down all the stories she could remember from her years with Austin, wanting to preserve their history for future generations. In 1920, Kate received word that her childhood home in St. Louis was being torn down to make way for new development. She made the trip back east, wanting to see it one last time. Standing before the old house, she thought about the girl she had been, the dreams she had harbored, the life she had expected to live. None of it had happened the way she had imagined. Her mother had died too young. Her father had been murdered. She had fled across the wilderness in terror for her life. She had hidden in a stranger's cellar, desperate and alone, but that stranger had shown her kindness. He had protected her, loved her, married her, and given her a family. Together they had built something beautiful out of tragedy and fear. Kate returned to Colorado, knowing that her home was there now in Pueblo, on the ranch she and Austin had built together. She belonged to that land and to the family that continued to grow and thrive there. She lived 12 more years after Austin's death, long enough to see her great-grandchildren born, long enough to see William expand the ranch even further, and Sarah become the principal of the Pueblo school. She lived long enough to know that everything she and Austin had worked for would continue after she was gone. Kate died peacefully in her sleep in the spring of 1928, at the age of 74. She was buried next to Austin in the cemetery outside Pueblo, beneath the cottonwood trees with a view of the mountains. Her children placed her father's grave marker nearby so the family could finally be together. On her headstone, William had inscribed the words she had spoken so often over the years. Love finds us in the strangest places and changes us forever. The ranch continued to operate for another 50 years under the management of the Quinn family. The house where Austin and Kate had lived, loved, and raised their family stood for nearly a century before it was finally torn down to make way for new development as Pueblo grew. But the story lived on. Each generation told their children about the cowboy who found a woman hiding in his cellar, about the love that grew from that chance encounter, about the life they built together. The story became part of the family's identity, a reminder that courage and kindness and love can transform tragedy into triumph. Great-great-grandchildren who never knew Austin and Kate still visited their graves, still heard the stories, still understood that they came from people who had faced the worst life could offer and chosen to respond with love instead of fear, with generosity instead of selfishness, with hope instead of despair. And in that way, Austin Quinn and Kate Matthews lived on, their love story echoing down through the decades, proving that sometimes the most extraordinary things begin in the most ordinary ways. A man checking his cellar, a woman hiding in fear, and a choice to show compassion instead of turning away. From that simple beginning came a lifetime of love, a family that spanned generations, and a legacy that time could not erase. Their story proved that love, real and true and deep, can bloom anywhere, even in the darkest places. That two people brought together by chance and circumstance can create something lasting and beautiful if they choose to face the world together. That kindness to a stranger can change not just one life but many, rippling outward through time in ways we cannot predict, but can only hope for. Austin and Kate never knew how many lives their story would touch, how many people would draw strength and inspiration from knowing that their great-great-great-grandparents had faced impossible odds and won. They lived simply, loved deeply, and tried to do right by their neighbors and their family. And in the end, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.